Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leopoldo. I've heard a lot about this reading series from Susan Lane and others, and I'm delighted to be here.
Me too. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you all for coming, and thank you again, Leopoldo, for organizing these readings. I know it's a lot of work, actually. We are going to read from In Our Resemblance, and at first I thought we had 20 minutes, but then upon learning that we have 40, we just decided to read a little more from this little book. So we're going to read from 5 sections, and then we will read the conversation, and we will discuss with you how those differ. This collaboration felt like, I want to say a little miracle, but it's actually a big miracle. It turns out that I was in Skillman on August 2nd, writing haiku on the motel, you can't even call it stationary, scratch pad at Econo Lodge. I couldn't sleep, and for some reason I was writing haiku, and I wrote about 6 or 7 of them. And then I shared with Jocelyn that I had been doing this, and lo and behold, she had been writing haiku at the same time.
Like the exact same time. Yeah, which is rare. That's never happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say miracle. And so then we set about, well, basically continuing. And the whole thing happened very quickly in 3 to 4 weeks, but we'll talk more about our process, in and out of the poems. So we're going to start with, actually, I think you have something to say.
Yes, I'll go. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I forget.
Yes, so my mom, this is Judith, and I'm Jocelyn too, just in case you don't know. Yes, I'm the daughter one. And we were writing at the same time, and I think I suggested, let's write a book together. And that's something I always looked up to my mom as a poet and been so impressed with. Like my eyes were tearing up hearing all these incredible things you've done. My whole life she's been this incredible poet. She came into my classroom in elementary school multiple times, and to my sister and brother's classroom, and she's just like a goddess of writing and teaching. And
blushing.
A lot of people.
Okay, enough. All right, blushing. Blushing.
You'll get to see a lot of dynamics between us today. So, but she's my hero, writing hero, and many people in our family are just so impressed with the work that you create, not only writing but art. She's an incredible artist, painter. So, but it's like it just came over me. I would love to just write a book with you. And this is during the pandemic isolation. We've been in extended isolation and bubbling intermittently and connecting in that way, but not as close physically as I want to be. So writing together was just so special, and we collaborated. And the book pieces, Mom, you drew the sections together of all these haikus we had written within a couple weeks. She drew and collected them into the sections, and I immediately was like, this is perfect, amazing, going back to all of her skill as a author and poet. And then we did the conversation, which is you'll hear at the end of our reading, which is us. We literally did a call and response and wrote haiku one after another, and it was so touching and healing, and just the most deep way I've been able to connect with her. And it's kind of like Leopoldo, you led with that. Maybe as a teenager I was slamming the door in your face, but as an adult I'm writing a book with you and I'm doing a reading with you. So
all you with teenagers out there, hang in there. It only gets better.
Yes,
gets way better. And I would say this was really your idea, sweetie. So you gave me a lot of praise there, but you had the idea.
And I got to do the cover of the book too, which is a combination of my mom's painting and my own art, graphic design. And I wanted it to echo a haiku. So there's like a 1, 2, 3 of a haiku here, and these faces, which are kind of hidden, having an encounter with one another. So each image is overlaid on my mom's painting. So I thought that was kind of fun. And I've been blessed by Woon too, the publisher, to be able to do a little bit more graphic design for that press. So that's been really special.
Oh, yeah, we shout out to Koon. So we're going to start with the section titled Family, and we'll just alternate as it is in the book. Return to the source, wherever a daughter lives. Cut ties with the past.
The mother is right, how she sets a ripe limit, carefully talks, sighs.
More children are born to the young mother I was, but they are not mine. Family once joined cleaves through whether good and bad, 4 generations.
I remember home, wooden partitions and dust orbiting people.
Alone with silence, children grown and gone away, I think of you now. So we're going to move on to nature.
Petal, sepal, lip, the orchid somehow in bloom. I had no hope.
Remember to tend this northland where you were born as in a desert.
Quartz flows like honey. The cave tucks itself inward. Time locks the sharp rock. Go toward the moon. A rhythm distends, hollers, echoes bounce back.
Hummingbirds still come to drink the same red water, a sugary dream.
The meadowlarks kiss. No one understands yellow, how leaves pronounce wind.
Infection's fever lays waste to what it touches, our wrinkled grasses. I walk out, heat dark, hear you sick with a sore throat, my one lone cricket. And this section is called Being. Shall I grieve for you? Only if you suffer well. Long live our sorrows.
Long live our sorrows. Heaps of shattered glass ground down, the heart a dark ledge. Name the agony, how we each die at some point. What else can be done? How does life persist? Dense forest, possibility, all relinquishing.
In dense forest floor, the matador wants to vine our deep resemblance.
Harmony mocks me. Why do I love so poorly? The curtain is slack. The mug's wet slumber. Does clay feel pain when it kilns? I sip the question.
Tonight's crescent moon holds, untouched by human hands, the sun's resemblance. And this next section is titled Mother and Daughter.
Miraculously, your red and blue tapestry. I was inside you. It's crazy. There I am as a baby on the back, by the way. The cries were piercing. I can't make sense of what was. You held my body.
Water seeks water, the path of least resistance. I knew you were well. They said otherwise. Spina bifida, stillborn. You're the survivor. In the yard, your son scares a wild baby hare from long grasses.
You nestle me in, even now when I flee you. You are my mother.
So moving. This is really moving, you guys. Tears. Okay, we're moving on to the pandemic. Pollen coats my house. Days go slow in this springtime of lone quarantine.
Viral loads quicken. Tender lungs weep rote fluid. When will it deaden? It smells like corn dogs. Indoors, a crowd gathered close. I miss the quiet hum. Many lonely days. The hostility of peace. Catacomb of selves.
I worry for Luke and many other children who know only this.
Possibility. I could miss saying goodbye. It could take you down. This preemptive grief, saturating everything, leaves me raw and numb. Sweetie.
Fear is worse than death. The Dutch rabbits never saw roving coyotes. Now let us go in to the heart of fear and find a little healed plum. Luke wears a mask, makes tall rockets with tape and glue. Soon he will be vaxxed.
And he is now.
Okay, so this next section is titled Climate Change. And this partly came about, if you'll remember, the heat dome was just before we started writing these. So the heat dome was really, really a thing. Okay. August life, August dust and smoke in once clear air. One ripe brown apple.
What is this torture? Small, distended heaps of glass, can't clandestine as loss. Flames sweep forest floors, drought and fire gaslight homes. The flower asks, why? Should we have more kids? What about your granddaughter, the one you don't have? The horizon's ink ripens bone for the ending, apocalyptic.
Crescent moon last night. Sequoia gone brown from drought. I wait for first rains. So we're skipping one section called memory, and it's in the book if you get the book. But the part that we want to read next is actually, it's very exciting. This is the part where we riffed. We went back and forth in call and response. And it was it was a correspondence of souls. It was very exciting. And we wanted to say something that any of you out there, you know, who have family or fellow friends and writers, this is a fun thing to try. And I have collaborated before with a friend and as a translator. I've done other collaborations. This is really unique to work with your blood. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend it. So on this one, I think you started, honey. So
Mhm. So we'll go
okay.
back and forth,
Yeah.
and this is the closing of the book. Thank you for joining us and listening in. Really appreciate you. Also, sorry to interrupt the flow. I realized I don't know if it's possible to record this portion or if anyone is able to.
the whole thing is.
Is it
being
being recorded?
The whole thing is being recorded, which doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have access to it very soon, because I am so far behind. I'm probably behind by 10. I
Okay.
keep plugging along. So, but anyway,
No
it's all
rush.
recorded.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. No rush. I imagine this would be a really special video for us to
Yes,
have. Thank you, Leopoldo.
And this little part of the conversation will be cut out. I try to cut out,
Oh.
even though it's precious at the moment, you know, for posterity's,
Great.
you know.
Thank
great.
you. Awesome. Thanks so much. So this is the conversation. I wanted to help when you lay on the ground, dead, alive with your pain.
Child who sees mother felled, vanquished by sickness, cannot understand.
They said we are twins. I like how our hair matches. God made me like you.
In our resemblance to one another, I find your perfect distance.
I'm thinking of you. I wonder when you will die. I'm already sad.
We will be all well together for this pinking of the horizon.
The kitchen table. You gave me a paint palette. Thank you for all this.
A gracious, lovely dancer at the bar, on point, haloed with sunlight.
When I'm up this late, I feel close to you, writing. My heart swells with yours.
I thought it my fault, could not see the miracle of how you held on.
My tears are close here, threatening to burst and fall. Memory capsules.
Through a chink in time, you came to drink from rivers full of suffering.
You bought me a dog. I wanted to show it off, not have to feed it.
The dog you wanted, I could not train. I said, yes, Australian Shepherd.
I had big feelings. Was my anger dangerous? Feelings ricochet.
For your father, all feelings spell danger. Your aunt trades in hurt's anger.
It's time to sleep now. I go to my bed and wait. The dawn hides plainly.
September, again, School begins, takes children in, away from my gaze.
I called you and cried. Tomorrow's land lies fallow. You know what to say.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. And I know we've gone a bit short, but what we'd really like is, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Koon Woon, because it was, to me, it was quite amazing. Apart from the miracle of this happening, then to send it to Koon Woon and have him say yes. I've always admired Goldfish Press, and I I was just, actually I was so shocked. I was like, what? And then I, told Jocelyn, and we were so excited. And then also to give him a shout out for being such an amazing poet, which I learned of. I've ordered his book. I ordered it soon after that. And then just, learning about his life and his odyssey. So yeah. And then really to encourage everyone again, that this was such a, fruitful doesn't do it justice, but just such an amazing collaboration, and that it's at our fingertips with our family members. And
a shout out to our family members who are watching with us and holding the children among us so that we can be together in the quiet space to give the reading. Thank you so much. Our family is just incredible, and we're savoring being together after a long time of separation. So just feeling so grateful.
Yeah, I want to say amen and second that emotion. Thank you, Jocelyn, because I just see their name, but I just saw Koon Woon's name. Oh, that's cool.
Hi, Koon.
Hi, Koon.
That's so fun.
So yeah, we're open to any questions or just anything you want to ask or talk about, and then we're looking forward to the open mic.
Well, I have one regret, and that is that technically I didn't see that Koon had joined. I don't know how long he's been waiting, but my regret is that I didn't admit him he goes into a waiting room so that he could hear some of your kudos in your fond, acknowledgement and appreciation for Koon, not only that he published it, but who he is and his poetry. And so I fortunately we recorded this, and I'm going to make sure that Koon gets to hear that, because I think
I heard it.
You heard it? Did you hear us rave about you? We're so honored, Koon.
I'm glad.
And we love your writing so much. Both of us bought your book, and we're just totally.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you invited, anybody to respond to it now. And so we certainly have time for that. So if anybody else would like to respond, I've got to say that I was very, I don't know, this is not the right word, moved, but I love the expression of emotion, that both of you were in. I could, it was just wonderful seeing your faces, and it felt somewhat like we were in the same room. But also how that was reflected both in celebration and sorrow, in your poetry. And it was beautiful. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I want to let you know that I am inspired, because a lot of my poetry that I write for family and for family events and marked moments. And I think the beauty of it is that when I read that, the person that I'm writing it is really into it. You know what I'm saying? Because we've shared the history. So that's what I experienced with the two of you, is like the way that each of your haikus reflected your knowledge and awareness and appreciation for each other.
Well, thank you so much. That means a whole lot. Thank you.
I would love to
ask
hear
a
you.
question.
Go ahead.
About the periodicity between these communicating poems. what was the time span? How did you decide? How long did you take to respond? And did you sometimes sort of leap over and respond to one that had been two before, say, or something? I'm just curious about your process.
Now that I'm thinking back, we did. So it would show up in a Google Doc that we shared. And in general, I would add on to the end. But once it became a little longer, I remember going back and adding. Do you remember that? Like we kind of, I could feel out and add. And I think things shifted. But in general, it was like add, literally call and response in a Google Doc that was shared.
For the conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's a really good question, because in the previous sections, and admittedly, they're all very short as the form is short. Those were gathered according to subject matter that was kind of, it was almost arbitrary because they really could fit anywhere. But if they had more to do with this time we're in with the pandemic, then I put them there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was Jocelyn's idea to have a book. It never occurred to me. That's all you. And so once she proposed that, then I tried to gather them according to subject matter. And then for the conversation, that was pretty much a direct back and forth. And we're both very fast.
Yeah, we go fast. It's true. And we're just at home in the pandemic going back and forth throughout every day.
Yeah.
And that's why it came out within weeks. We had all the
material. It was 3 to 4 weeks for the material.
I love to write. I've always loved to write, and I haven't been. I do a lot of graphic art and digital art, but and drawing. But when I took a comics class, and a shout out to David Lasky with Push Pull, I do a comics haiku class, and that was a part of where I started being more curious about writing again and doing some haiku. And then I think that intersected with the this flow that just was stopped up. I was constipated with all these words, so that period of time was just an outflow of it was just those just came out so easily. And yeah,
and she's an amazing writer. She writes a lot of prose and other things too. Thank you, Pam, for that question.
and Marjorie.
And did you, kind of playing off of that, did you find that you broadened your communication or talked about things that you had not talked about before through this kind of back and forth process?
For me, I don't know what you would say. Some of the memories feel like territory we've held together a fair amount, like Joey the dog, rest in peace, Joey, the Australian Shepherd in 2nd grade that I needed for popularity. It worked. Yeah, so those kinds of markers are pretty in the family lore, but something that felt more new for me or more vital was the explicit holding of my preemptive dread and preemptive grief that's gotten so stirred up with the pandemic, and just naming this obsession I've developed with fear of death, and my mom, anticipating my mom and my dad's death. And it's just that for me was material that I really needed to locate and move that, which is what the poems partly helped me do, and feel so held. When we read it tonight, the part where you respond to my fear and you go into the fear and find a little peeled plum, that is the deepest wisdom a mother can give a daughter. She's given me such incredible wisdom in my walk with fear of death, and from Grandma Bernice, who's watching with us tonight too. My mom's mom is with us, and she's the queen of wisdom and
we call
power.
We call her the Oracle.
She's the Oracle. Yes. So she's present with us. She should be in here. Sorry, Bernice.
We should.
Oh.
A shout out to my mom, the matriarch of our family from Montreal, who is an amazing, I do call her Saint Bernice, and not for nothing. So, yeah. And I've tried to tell Jocelyn, what my mother told me is, as you move on through life and you see the generations coming along, and I heard another poet say this, Richard Shelton long ago at reading a rattlesnake writers conference. I was very young. He said, "You young people, you're very afraid of death, but just wait, because it gets easier, because you see this, I want to call it a parade of ancestors or a parade of generations. You see the natural order, and then of course your body begins to comply. You're like, why am I still here? I'm sorry, that's my thing, because I have chronic pain. But you see the process that when I was young, my phobia took a different form. It was fear of flying. And an Australian relative said, and he said it with a great Australian accent, which I cannot possibly mimic, but it was, "Are you afraid of flying, or are you afraid of dying?" And that actually was the beginning of me getting over my fear of flying. So anyway, thank you for listening to all of this.
Oh, thank you. To PoetryBridge.
Hey, thank you very much. I tell you, I was just knocked out with those poems there. To me, I call it one of the wow factors. It's just, I do readings all over the place, and that whole sentiment was just knocked me crazy, man. I like short poems and that, so it was well done. I thought they did a really good job. Hope we can hear more from them more later on sometime again. Okay, I'm gonna got a couple of short poems here. This one I call Shoes. Walking onward through the green acres, barefoot flowers, headstones holding time. Found shoes beside a grave, not strange, but new, mysteriously. Echoes silently inside, shoes that walked on many trails, walked a different way. Sights to my feet, I slipped them on. Feet mold to the soul, refreshing. Listen to the laces as I tighten them up, standing proud in them with special gifts, but feel the closing of another. Life's a journey, need something to walk with. Don't know where I'm going, but it feels right. Walking away, walking as I, walking that made me. And the second poem here is a short one. This is almost one of my poems, very first poems I wrote years ago. It's called A Child's Dream. A child building dreams in the sand, imagination running wild, from cowboys to Indians, to ice cream cones, from rainy days to rainbows. It doesn't matter if the rain washes the dream away, just build another one on another day. Thank you.
Okay, this is
Thank you, guys.
from assignment from last fall quarter in Hugo House, and we were supposed to write poems that ask questions. So I wrote a couple of letters to John Keats and John Clare, who we studied last quarter. Both 19th century English poets. Now this is would be two halves, of course, Keats and Clare. Questioning poets, queries for Keats. Why did you walk through 25 miles of November rain in a flimsy springtime waistcoat, immune to thoughts insane? Did you think death was no more than a laudanum dream? An apparition murmuring of that not fully seen, but you knew it had arrived like Italian sun in your fevered ruins in Rome of breathless consumption. Did you ever hear portents of the nightingale's song that you wouldn't live to be Wordsworth's age or even half as long? This is a query for Claire. Why did birdsong stay in your head? From Emmy's Sales Heath, where night jars called and the hawk whistled like a thief. You didn't heed the cold-eyed men of science in London, who peered through the sterile glass of the corpses of robins. Ignorant henchmen of commerce lived in that city, their blackthorn hearts icy towards avian poetry. How could they hear other bird tunes as nightingales' music, which you still heard within the walls that house lunatics? Thank you.
All right, so here's
Oh,
mine.
Thank you, Joe.
I have two short poems. Okay. This one is called Diwali. Sinister, throbbing, jarring voices fill the darkling plain, laughing at an innocent in pain, robbing the poor of grain. How shall the meek, the poor, the meek and the frail reach toward the light? Freedom, happiness, simple joys, eating, drinking, and making merry for a day or two till life is done. Look from a hilltop into a valley, green, evergreen, and splendid sequoias. Gaze in rapture at the great bear in a clear night sky, soothing quiet. Only by standing together, shoulder to shoulder, our bodies, swords, and shields, the fallen replaced, the wall unbroken, good shall triumph over evil. The message of Diwali repeated thousands of years. All right, you know, basically Diwali is the festival of light, right? So this is written essentially to try to explain that the, you know, that Diwali, the message of Diwali is the victory of good over evil. Then here's a short poem, which I probably, I mean, it's haiku-like, it's a super haiku, if you like. Now, okay, so here's the poem and I'll explain it a little bit because it needs some explanation. Plato and the platypus meet in a bar. Okay. Plato and the platypus met in a bar. Said Plato to the platypus, "But you are extinct." Snorted the platypus, "I think, therefore I am." Riposted Plato, "Verum est ipsum factum." Okay, all right. So I had put together some comments about it. See, the idea of Plato and a platypus meeting in a bar comes from Plato and a platypus. You know, there's a book called Plato and a Platypus, meet or something. What it is a collection. It explains philosophy through jokes. Right? It's actually a cool book. All right. Okay. So Plato applies the Cartesian philosophy of reasoning from a set of axioms. So basically, you set your axioms and you do inference from them, and tells the platypus that it couldn't possibly be there as it was extinct. Actually, it's not extinct. It lives. I mean, there are platypus living and thriving in Australia, right? But Plato wouldn't know about that because he was in Greece, right? So, okay. All right. The platypus replies in the words of René Descartes, and he says, "I think, therefore I am." I mean, we don't know whether a platypus thinks or not, but let's assume it does. Okay. The last line comes from the work of Giambattista Vico, okay, another philosopher. It means what is true is precisely what is made. That is, if the platypus is present, its presence is the truth, no matter what Descartes and his gang have to say about it. It's there. Okay. So what appears is true. That's basically what it's about. Okay.
PoetryBridge.
All right.
Hello. And it was wonderful to hear Judith and Jocelyn read after hearing so much about Jocelyn years before. Thank you, Judith. This poem is a pantoum at an assignment and for a class, and you'll understand it if you've become addicted to Wordle. And if you haven't been exposed to Wordle, it won't make diddly squat. Wordle. If everybody knows, it's a word game that's popular. There's a run on 5-letter words at the store. Time slowed to a stop since the beginning of COVID. New habit demands we type 5 letters in green boxes. After each guess, the minions press enter. Time plods forward since the beginning of COVID. Invites calm entries of plant, laugh, apple, truck, umber. After each guess, the minions press enter. No chance of climate, protest, insurrection, or filibuster. Invites calm entries of daisy, brain, slave, salve, while upset. Time is not of the essence. No timer ticking. No chance of either, neither bombardment or blather. Players have 6 lucky guesses to succeed. No timer ticking. Time is not of the essence. All hope refocused on a digital virtual keyboard. Players hope they succeed in less than 6 lucky guesses. A Brit in the States designed the game for his partner. Secluded hopes refocused on this digital virtual keyboard. Millions addicted to this shot of vocabulary caffeine. A Brit in the States designed the game for his partner. The New York Times bought rights for a 7-figure sum. Millions addicted to this shot of vocabulary caffeine. New owners promise not to put up a paywall for now. The New York Times bought rights for a 7-figure sum. We can play the game free while mask mandates drag on. New owners promise not to put up a paywall for now. New habits demand we type 5 letters in green boxes. We can play the game free while mask mandates drag on. There's a run on 5-letter words at the store.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have a poem tonight. It's called Smoothie, and it's after Richard Brodigan. Sometimes life is a matcha smoothie. I once read some things about matcha lattes, which I am forever conflating with matcha smoothies. Matcha lattes stimulate strange feelings, support the liver. I want a matcha smoothie because evening came foggy and cold. What a funny thing, what I really want. Like talking to you. We haven't talked for ages. It's not too late to commit to such a pilgrimage, at least. If we have time left over, let's drink matcha smoothies and after lie awake in our separate rooms when ordinarily we're unconscious. Experience a contradiction of alertness, send dreams packing, sweat as the heat seeps from our guts into the other molecules of us, string together dots. That meeting in 2 days calls for preparatory stillness, assembly of the best green powders, boiling, whisking, steeping. At the reunion, I determined to sip with my eyes wide open. You and I warm our fingers around matching tall mugs. I wonder if you will burn your tongue.
All right. First of all, a modality is like a context. So the title of the poem is The 4 Modalities. Always wishing the world was something else, aren't you? The world is the world, and it consists of these things: rain, snow, sun, night. Nothing to worry about. Rain pours like salt, and you need it. Snow needs plowing, and you got the job. Sun Ha, we have one and that's enough. In night, night is when you cry. If they shut you out in the rain, it's something you don't want to forget. Drenched, you're forced to find a domain where you get a better interpretation. Snow is a bit flaky, covering the world in forgetfulness, where battle has been fought and men slain. In the white field, human appendages protrude. In sun, we love his warmth, but it kills too, baking the mud and boiling the water away. Night is fearsome. No one can hold it back. Go gentle into it, regardless what invisible hand had tossed the die.